Hello and welcome to a video on significant figures, and in this video we're going to look at what significant figures are, why we use them, and also how many significant figures there are in different numbers. So first of all, I've just got a scenario here where we've got two people. They measured this length of rope. The first person measures it at 428 meters, and this person measures it again and they measure at 428.00 meters. So what I'd like you to do is just pause the video and have a think about what the difference between these two measurements are. So are they exactly the same or are they slightly different? Well, hopefully what you notice is that this person here, although these two values are the same, this person is being a lot more precise with their measurements. So these extra zeros that we've got at the end here, which we don't have over here, well, these zeros give us extra information as to how precise our measurements actually are. So here we're only told that we're measuring to the nearest meter. It could have been 427.9 meters, but we've just rounded it to the nearest meter. Well, over here we're saying that we've measured to the nearest centimeter. So we're being a lot more precise in our measurements. And that's what significant figures is all about. It's saying how precise are you with your measurements. So here we've got 5 significant figures. I'm just going to use SF for short for significant figures. And here we've only got 3 significant figures. Okay, so we've got more significant figures in this number, so it is more precise. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through a few numbers and we're going to identify how many significant figures each number has got. So this first one here, 0.00700. Well, the first significant figure is the 7. Okay, it's always our first non-zero number. So these leading zeros do not count as significant. Okay. Then after the 7, well, we're given extra information here. We're saying that we're being this precise. So these extra zeros are significant because they tell us how precise our measurement was. So here we've got 3 significant figures. Now, if you're wondering why these 2 extra zeros are significant, if I were to just write out 0.007, okay, these extra 2 zeros on the end, well, they give us information to say that I'm being more precise than what I've got here. A bit like the first example that I just gave with the rope. Okay, this measurement is more precise than this measurement. So these 2 zeros are significant. Okay, let's have a look at this one here. So these 2 zeros are not significant because they are leading zeros. So this is our first significant figure. This is our second significant figure. So we've got 2 significant figures over here. So this next one here, 370.0. Well, any non-zero number is always significant. And then this 0 here and this 0, well, this gives us information as to the precision. So here we've got 4 significant figures. So this next one here, the 1 is significant, but then the 0 is also significant, and then the 0 after the decimal point is also significant. So we've got 3 significant figures here. Now this next one here, 705.001, well, all of these numbers are in fact significant. So we've got 6 significant figures here. Now this last one here might be a bit confusing, so I'll try and go through it slowly with you. So the first non-zero number is always significant, so that's significant, the 3 is significant, the 7 is significant. Now I want you to think about whether these last 3 zeros are significant or not. And the answer is they are not significant. So here we've only got 2 significant figures. And the reason for this is because we don't know exactly how precise this measurement was. In order for it to have been exactly 37,000, we would have needed to include a decimal point after this 5th zero. Okay, and now we're saying that it's exactly 37,000, therefore all of these zeros will be significant. But if we take that decimal point away, okay, we don't know what this has been rounded to. So we could have just rounded to the nearest 1,000, and we could have measured it to have been 36,500, and in that case, we would have had to have rounded up to 37,000. Okay, so these zeros do not count as significant. Now, with all that in mind, let's see if we can come up with some rules to show which numbers are significant and which ones are not significant. So first of all, let's start with the ones that are definitely significant. So you can see that here that any non-zero number is always significant. Okay, so any non-zero number is always significant. So we know that all non-zero numbers are always significant. What about the zeros? So we've got zeros before a number, we've got zeros after a number, but we've also got zeros in between a number. So zeros in between a number, these ones here, these were counted as significant, and I think this is the only example with zeros in between, and that is always the case. So any zeros we have in between non-zero numbers, they are always counted as significant. So now let's think about the leading zeros, so the zeros before the first non-zero number. So these first zeros, these were all not significant, these ones were not significant, and that is always the case. So any zero before our first non-zero number is always not significant. So let's write that down. So we've looked at non-zero numbers, we've looked at zeros in between non-zero numbers and also leading zeros. The last thing we need to think about is the zeros at the end, or the trailing zeros. So let's have a look. We've got two zeros at the end here, they were significant. These two were both significant. These two were also both significant. But these three at the end, these were not significant. So can you spot a pattern here between, or a difference between these zeros and the zeros in these three examples at the top here? Well, you may have spotted that the difference between this number and all of the other numbers is there are no decimal places in this number here. So whenever you have any trailing zeros and there's no decimal places, these zeros are not counted as significant. Whereas if there are decimal places, it doesn't matter where the decimal place is, as long as there's a decimal place in the number, whenever you have trailing zeros, these are counted as significant. So let's write this down. So hopefully going through all of these rules now with you helps you to identify which numbers are significant and which ones aren't significant. So you could write all of this down if you wanted to make a note of that. So whenever you've got any non-zero numbers or zeros in between non-zero numbers, they are always counted as significant. Whenever we had any leading zeros, those are always counted as not significant. But whenever we have any trailing zeros, it really depends on whether we've got a decimal or not, as to whether they're significant or not. Okay, so now it's your turn. What I'd like you to do is go through each of these numbers and determine how many significant figures are in each number. Okay, so let's go through this together now. So remember, any leading zeros are not significant. So first one is going to be the 4. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 significant figures there. Okay, so the second one here, this one is not significant, and then the 4 is, the 2 is. Now this is the strange situation where we've got a decimal point, so these are significant. So we've got an extra 3 here, so we've got 5 in total. Okay, the next one here, so the 2 is significant, but these ones are not significant because there is no decimal point. So there's only one significant figure there. Okay, so the next one, these are not significant. So the 9 is, and then the 1 is, and the 9 is. So there's 3 over here. Not significant, and then significant, 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 because we've got a decimal point. So there's also 3. Now here we've got significant, 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 and then this one is significant as well because we've got a decimal point. So there are 5 in total. 330.0, again, we've got significant, significant, and then these two are also significant, so there's 4 in total. First 0 is never significant, and then we've got significant, and then that one is also significant, so there's 2. And then the last one, we've got significant, 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 significant. So there are 6 significant figures in that last one. So this video is just an introduction to significant figures, what they are, why they're used, and how we can determine how many significant figures there are in a particular number. So hopefully that helped. Thanks again.